So I went for my annual physical right before I left. And I literally, Daphne, I lied through the questions where, they ask you all the mental health questions and are you under any stress? And I literally lied through them because I knew
Of
if I
course,
actually
there's shame in
told,
that. Yeah.
shame, but it was also, I knew that if I actually told the doctor what was going on in my life, there would have been alarms and bells going off. And I was like, I know what I'm doing to try to help get out safely. It's okay. But,
Okay.
but guess
Yeah.
what? Blood work doesn't lie. My blood work came back off the charts. I mean, my doctor was very concerned, like basically what is going on here? Presented as a blood disorder. That's what I'm saying. I'm not making this up. I know what I felt. And then the doctors and the labs proved it. And I knew it was the extreme stress I was under. But I just said, okay, I'll follow up this and that. But I knew. I did nothing to follow up. A year later, after I left the relationship, started on my healing journey, I went back for my annual physical. And I'll never forget it. My doctor, and I love her, and we have a great relationship. She's like a holistic functional medicine. She came in and she looked at my labs and my charts. She was like, whoa, like what happened since last year? Everything is normal.
Deanna, you have this incredible story that I really wanted to bring to listeners because I think one of the things that we don't realize, we're always looking for the next diet trend. We're looking for the next exercise. We're looking for the next pill or peptide or whatever is going to bring our body and hormones into balance. But one of the biggest things that we're ignoring is who is in our environment and how relationships in our life actually shape our ability and bandwidth to feel healthy and connected to ourselves.
Absolutely, Daphne. I speak to this all the time. And what I love to say is the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your relationships. And if you really take that in, the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your relationships, meaning surround yourself with positive people. If you surround yourself with positive people, you're uplifted, you're filling your soul, your mind, your body. It's all connected. I'm a huge mind, body, spirit believer. So like you said, you were just talking about, taking care of our physical health. Most people know what we need to do. Diet, exercise, supplements, rest, all of those things. There's so much more to it than just that. So look at it from both sides. In a positive arena where you have wonderful, loving people around you, you feel lifted up. You feel encouraged, right? You feel motivated, filled. The opposite of that, if you are surrounded or even just in one toxic, narcissistic relationship, the effects of that on your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health are devastating. And there's a direct connection. So you can be doing all of the exercise you want, eating right, sleeping. And if you're in one of these relationships and you're thinking, why do I still feel terrible? Why am I dealing with this chronic pain? Why can't I sleep? Well, think about your environment. The relationships in your environment are one of the biggest factors of your health.
Yeah, we talk so much about how stress comes from our jobs and our kids and
Yes.
and those factors, but the things that we're not being honest about are the actual partnerships and relationships in our environment that we
Yes.
continue to allow. Sometimes
Yes.
sometimes that's a romantic partner, sometimes that's parents, sometimes that's
Work
neighbors.
environment.
Exactly. These things are things we are choosing.
Yeah.
And what we also know is that when we choose that energy or we choose those relationships in our life, whether we realize it, we're doing it or not, it actually attracts more of those relationships or more of those types of people.
Yes, exactly.
Dana,
Exactly.
your story's incredible, and you're a East Coaster like me, so we are all about grit and pushing it and pushing through and making it happen, right?
Yes.
We're in the hustle kill, but I was going to say I like hustle capital, right? Where we invented the hustle, right?
I like that.
I like to think we invented the hustle, and this is something, especially as women, we're told to turn off our alarm bells. We're told to, not be so emotional. Don't be so sensitive. Nobody's going to take you seriously if you cry, right? I remember this upbringing, right? Don't you dare cry, right? There's no crying in
Yeah.
baseball. But
Yes. Yes.
this is what we were taught, that if we want men mostly, If we want
Yes.
people to take us seriously
Yes.
in life, in business, we need to show up bulletproof. And that's a lie. We shut off all these alarms in our body that says that's not right. That's not okay. And we
Yes.
even create a value system to partner with people who also have that sort of mindset, which is a
Yes.
huge abandonment thing.
Absolutely. You're abandoned. It's the abandonment of self. Absolutely. And you don't even realize it's happening. I mean, whatever your upbringing is, like you said, your upbringing, your environment, where you live, all of those things play into it. So a lot of times what I see what happens for myself and many, many clients, you get to a point in your life, midlife, and you're like, wait a minute. Okay. Whatever's happened that has made you finally realize exactly. And I deal with this all the time. People are so disconnected from their bodies because of exactly what you're saying. We've learned through society, family to push it down, repress the emotions, don't show it, keep going, right? And that's not how we're meant to live because at some point it backfires. At some point, I always say it's kind of like a container. And when you put stuffing things into a container, at some point it's overflowing and you cannot push anything else into it, right? And that's where, pain comes out in the body. Pain is a warning signal of our body.
Yes.
So, and this, I see this all the time, Daphne. Someone will come to me. So by trade, I'm a licensed massage therapist and a Reiki master. They come to me and say, I've had this chronic pain for years and years. I've been to every doctor, every specialist, but yet they keep telling me there's nothing wrong and I'm fine, but I know something's wrong in my body. And that's where the holistic piece comes in to dig a little deeper. Because, okay, let's dig into your journey, your story, your life. And when you start digging, it's like, oh, I've been dealing with this, toxic relationship forever. Oh, I've got this stress, this stress, this stress. And if you keep pressing it down and you're like, oh, but I got to keep going, can't feel it, can't do anything about it. At some point, it comes out in the body as a chronic pain, an autoimmune, an inflammation, something. And that's where it's like, you don't want to just put a band-aid over the symptom. Okay, let's try to massage it. We can do that, but that's not addressing the root cause of why you're having that to begin with. And I'll use an example, Daphne, specifically to these kinds of toxic relationships. I personally I've been in many narcissistic relationships. Like you said, you seem to attract them and you don't even realize it because if that's in your orbit, it's normal, it's familiar. So then someone comes into your work environment and then this, and then you're like, oh, all of these people seem the same, but you don't even recognize. But at the ending point of me putting the pieces together that I was in a very highly dysfunctional and toxic relationship, I will never forget for the longest time, that I'm on this earth, the physical effects it had on my body. I am a very healthy person. I take care of myself. I've always, I've never had, knock on wood, any major issues health-wise. But when things were coming to this really toxic point of me realizing what I was in and what I was dealing with, Daphne, it felt like there was this is how I described it. There was like a concrete boulder literally sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I felt suffocated. The heaviness in my body, racing heart, waking up in the middle of the night, like sweats. The physical components of what panic attacks. I'd never had a panic attack in my life. I heard about them, didn't even know that it exists, what it even felt like. I had several panic attacks. So and I look at it like a detective. If you just put the pieces together of, wait a minute, these are actual physical symptoms presenting that I've never felt before. What is going on? And then I did. I put those pieces together and it was like, okay, well now this is physically impacting me. And I knew, and I'm not being dramatic, that if I stayed, it would have really affected me physical wise, whether in some awful, disease, cancer. I mean, I truly feel that to my heart and I'm not being dramatic. So it was a matter of really survival and life and death. And I said, I need to get out of this relationship. And I'll fast forward a year later after I left this relationship, I went to my doctor. So I went for my annual physical right before I left. And I literally, Daphne, I lied through the questions where, they ask you all the mental health questions and are you under any stress? And I literally lied through them because I knew
Of
if I
course.
actually
There's shame in
told,
that. Yeah.
well, shame, but it was also, I knew that if I actually told the doctor what was going on in my life, there would have been alarms and bells going off. And I was like, I know what I'm doing to try to help get out safely. It's okay. But
Okay.
but guess
Yeah.
what? Blood work doesn't lie. My blood work came back off the charts. I mean, my doctor was very concerned, like, basically, what is going on here? Presented as a blood disorder. That's what I'm saying. I'm not making this up. I know what I felt. And then the doctors and the labs proved it. And I knew it was the extreme stress I was under. But I just said, okay, I'll follow up this and that. But I knew. I did nothing to follow up. A year later, after I left the relationship, started on my healing journey, I went back for my annual physical. And I'll never forget it. My doctor, and I love her, and we have a great relationship. She's like a holistic functional medicine. She came in and she looked at my labs and my charts. She was like, whoa, like what happened since last year? Everything is normal, like everything, right? And, I try, Daphne, in the world that we live in, life is tough. I try to have a sense of humor. I really do. I try to laugh
You
at
have
certain
to.
things. You have to.
You
You
this
have
is
to
this has
because,
carried me 44 years. Yes,
thank you.
exactly.
Life is serious and it's tough, right? And I looked at her and I said, well, I just had to leave a very narcissistic and abusive relationship. And now I'm feeling great. And she looked at me, and I'm like, it was the truth because that speaks to exactly what we started with and what I said. The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your relationships. So I left that environment. I left that relationship and my physical health magically got better. That was me. And I've seen it happen to many, many people. It's not a coincidence. It's not an accident.
Isn't it amazing too that most of the chronic disease, inflammation based diseases are predominantly happening to women? And I think
Yes.
we,
Yes.
we can really tie it back to the central nervous system and how the body is being affected from environmental.
Yes. Absolutely.
I, l- I,
Absolutely.
I love that not only that you really, I am so proud of you. I mean, we've only just met recently, but in the way that like what you did in a year's time is something some people cannot do in a
Yes.
lifetime. They can't
Yes.
make the identification of what's going on in their body. They continue to compartmentalize over and over and over for the performance, for the show, for the
Yes.
shame,
Yes.
for living in an environment that perpetuates this type of, right? I mean,
Yes.
how many times have you had a conversation with somebody? Because you're a transplant. What I love about your story is
Yes.
not only did you leave that situation, but you left that environment because we know this is a little bit into the addiction realm, right? But
Yes.
one of the things that we can do when we have a cycle we can't break is to physically change geolocation.
And remove yourself from the
And you
situation.
did
Yes.
that. That's I mean,
Yeah.
how hard you have kids. How
Yeah.
hard was that for you to not
Yeah.
only leave the familiarity of this chaos, because let's call it what it is, but then you
Yes.
also made this big step to leave the environment because you knew that's what was going to ground you to this new life.
Yes. Well, Daphne, that's a really important point, and there's several things I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I wanna address, like, all the things that you're saying," but we'll
Yes,
we'll we'll stay there. Actually, the timing of it was a little bit different. I didn't leave the relationship and then move locations. It was the opposite, which I think is a really important point for anyone out there who
absolutely.
is even questioning a relationship that they're in, thinking this might not be healthy. I'm a New Yorker, but my roots are in New York, so that's why we get along. The big city, East Coast. Lived there most of my life, and then I did live overseas a few times, so I've left that area and then was moving down to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I'm now. But what's interesting is that I didn't realize it at the time, but I needed to leave the environment, meaning the family situation, right? I needed to get out of it, like remove myself to actually find clarity of what was going on in the relationship. So I didn't know it and recognize it while it was happening. But after the fact, I thought, and I believe this, I don't think I could have left if I stayed in New York. And the reason I say that is because removing myself from, again, it wasn't just the relationship, there was toxicity around the family of the relationship, right? So there was a lot of layers. Removing myself from that, I was able to gain clarity, perspective, and actually it took about a year for me to piece together that it was narcissism that I was dealing with. I didn't even know I knew something was wrong. And this I speak to all the time, where if something's wrong in your body, there's a reason. You might not know exactly what it is and put your finger on a diagnosis, but you need to follow that because there's something is not okay. So it took me over a year to understand I was going through psychotherapy, put the pieces. Once I started delving into narcissism, Daphne, it made complete sense of my life. And that's when it was like literally light bulbs going off, one right after the other. This explains what I've been feeling for almost 20 years that I couldn't explain. And that is where I speak on just a general level, but specifically with these kinds of relationships. And I tell my kids this: if something feels off, there's a reason. Trust your intuition, follow it, and figure it out. I knew at that pivotal moment in my life, again, it wasn't just about me. I had 3 children that I was so concerned about. And I realized that one, I can't stay here. It will take me in some physical fashion. I felt it to my core. But two, I recognized it was bigger than me, because I realized if I did not leave and I didn't know what was on the other side, but I knew whatever it was had to be healthier and happier and more peaceful than what we were living. And so that's the leap of faith. And I knew that at some point we're going to figure it out. And I stand by this. It's been 7 years in our mine and my children included in our healing journey. And actually, I had a client ask me this literally a few months ago. She was on my table, exactly in that space, deciding whether to leave a toxic relationship or not. She knew some of my story, and she flat out asked me, "Would you do it all over again?" And I say, even after all of the pain and suffering that I have been through, that my children have been through, that we've been through together, I would do it all over again, because we still navigate the journey. However, we are happier and healthier than we have ever been. We've broken generational trauma. We
Yes.
are healing. I mean, I could go down a whole rabbit hole of just that
Yep.
alone, of the
Yeah.
trauma that we hold in our bodies generationally. It was
Yes.
a line in the sand. And I know, and I get very emotional when I speak about it, because I know that that's part of what my purpose here in life was, to break that cycle of abuse for myself, but for my children, my future grandchildren, because now my children see what happy and healthy looks like in a relationship. Whereas if I didn't leave, and this is what I'm so aware of, if I didn't leave, and many people do this and I don't judge it, you suck it up. Oh, it'll be fine. They'll go off to college. It'll be fine. Well, now you've set them off into the world thinking that dysfunction is
Yes.
love.
Mama.
We all have a light inside of us. We all have unique gifts and strengths and talents that we are meant to share with the world. So service, you can look at it from, yes, I have these gifts and I want to share them with the world. That's a healthy way of serving others. The service of being, like you said, subservient to someone, under someone's control, that is not healthy. And I recognize at some point, I cannot be me. I cannot be the true highest version of me and what I am here to do on this earth in this relationship, because I was being held down. So that was a huge realization in my world, to say, it's not just I'm in an unhappy relationship. It's not just, oh, can I deal with this? It was that I cannot shine my light the way that I'm supposed to in this world, in this relationship. So now I'll relate it to the doctor's appointment. Seven
Yeah.
years later, Daphne, the things that I have been doing to not only help me and my family, but the clients, the workshops, the support group that I started. I mean, all of these things, and I don't say this from an ego standpoint. I say this from a standpoint that I have used what has happened in my life to be able to help other people in similar situations, leaving and recovering, helping, recover the body, the nervous system, all
Yeah.
of those things that I would never have been, I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't leave. And so I'm aware of that every single day
You're a lighthouse. You literally are a lighthouse in that capacity, where it's not just about your light, it's about shining light
for
in the
others.
direction for other people who are lost, and like you said,
Yes.
know that something doesn't feel right, knows that the next diet, whatever, Can we dig into, because I think one of the beneficial parts to this conversation and sharing these experiences is that what does it look like? What does it feel like? So
Hmm.
I know one of the things that some people we don't even recognize because it's very subtle.
Yeah.
It can
Yes.
start with just subtle comments about your weight and the way you look, right? That
Yes.
this person just allows that. It could be jokes about
Mm.
your intelligence. It can be, and it's really interesting that in these relationships, and this doesn't have to be romantic. This doesn't have to be a
Yes.
partner. This can be parents, grandparents, uncles. This can just be your community at wide. If people are speaking to you in a way that doesn't feel good in your body and you continue to allow it because that's their sense of humor or that's what keeps the peace. I think keeping the peace is one
Mhm.
of the biggest things with
Yes.
clients and friends
Yeah.
alike, that keeping the peace is creating the cancer in you. You
Yes.
become that vessel and.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
do you mind, like, sharing our experience? Because I think what happens is people are like, "Oh, it's not a narcissist." That's a big thing. Narcissists try to triangulate you and this. No, it is so subtle. Like,
Yes.
the conditioning, and I had 20 plus years of conditioning early on that I knew even as a young person early
Yes.
on in my life that this isn't right, this isn't right, and
Yes.
it's coming from so many different areas. It's coming from, society. It's coming from the church. It's coming from,
Yes.
the parental figures that like their job is to keep suppressing you into,
Yes.
no, you're not right.
Submission.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're too emotional. You're too this. And sometimes it's aggressively mental abuse and
Yeah.
it's that cruelty and those sort of things being said. And sometimes it's subtle. It's little jokes. Oh, you can't take a joke. You can't. Yeah. How often have we heard that in a
Yes.
conversation?
Yes. The passive aggressive approach. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's passive aggressive. I'm just telling you in general, if you're meeting somebody who is chronically sarcastic in a relationship, they're really one
That's
of
a
the
big
biggest.
red flag.
They're probably one of the biggest cowards because what that means is they're saying something and just seeing how you react, and then when you
Yes.
react or stand up for yourself, they're like, "Oh, you're overreacting. That's you overreacting." So if you're
Yes.
meeting somebody who's chronically sarcastic with you or passive aggressive, it's their cowardly, narcissistic way for them to be like, "Oh, you took it the wrong way. That's your
Yes.
interpretation." And I'll
Yes.
be honest, the only
Absolutely.
interpretation that matters is yours. So if it doesn't feel right in your body, don't turn that
Yes.
flag off.
Yes. Oh
So
my gosh.
let me dig into this because
Mhm.
I'm going to share a little bit too about my story because I want people to realize it's not just coming from a romantic place. It's coming
Yes.
early on in life.
It
Like
does.
these
It
messages
does.
were very aware to me. I don't know how I became such an aware human being at such a young age, such an old soul, but I
Yeah.
knew things weren't right, and
Yes.
I didn't have a lot of control in the situation, so I learned to
Coping
manipulate in my own way.
mechanisms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll call it
Yeah.
that, but I, like, learned how to manipulate through my world to get out of that experience as quickly as I could,
Yes.
but I also
Yes.
recognize that I'm still getting out of that too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have this great story. So you said you went to the doctor, right? And I
Yeah.
I want I wanna tell this story because I want people to notice that this might be what's going on in their physical health
Right.
too. So you
Right.
went to the doctor, you had this light bulb moment. You can't see unsee what you saw, right?
Yes.
What was
Yes.
that moment where you're like, "Boom, I can't unsee this anymore."
Well, that's it. I love you nailed it now. That's exactly it. It's like if for anyone, when you see something, you can't unsee it. When you know something, you can't unknow it. If and this is what I spoke of. Okay, so for 20 years, I didn't know what I was dealing with, which is why I just kept going and just plugging along. But once you know, how can you continue? Now, I do know people that know and they say, well, I'll deal with it. Again, it's a very personal decision. But for me, Daphne, it was visceral. These kinds of relationships you mentioned, they're very subtle. So
Mhm.
the brainwashing, the grooming, the training, it happens slowly
Triangulation. Yes.
over, right, but over a long period of time. So we can't expect that once I leave this relationship and boom, I'm okay. The effects on your body and your mind are really, again, they're pivotal, and what I say is you can't expect your recovery and healing to
Mhm.
magically happen overnight because the abuse didn't happen overnight. So it is a process. It's a process, and again, one that most people need to be very intentional about. I do want to speak to what you were saying about, the family members, because I absolutely agree with you. It doesn't just, you don't magically just fall into these kinds of relationships. I do believe that there's a, genetic and hereditary component of that, how you were brought up. You think it's normal. Again, the codependency, the people pleasing, all of those things, those are coping mechanisms of being in those kinds of relationships. And I know for me personally, it's like I watched my mother in that space of like, keeping the peace, the peacemaker. Like you said, keep the peace, everything will be okay. But yet as a child, and there's so many things I want to speak to there, is that as a children are innocent, right? Children haven't been jaded by the world yet. So why, like you were saying, and this happened to me as well, you're like, something isn't okay, but you're a kid and you don't know what, but you know what is safe and what is not, right? Like this doesn't feel right. It does. So you learn your own coping mechanisms on how to deal. So that's number one. And then what happens? You grow up, and then it's, I work in energy. So everything is energy. Energy is all around us. And it's the relationships and friendships we make, jobs
Yes.
accept. So it's an energetic component. A narcissist magnetizes to a codependent, an
Yes.
empath, a people
Yes.
pleaser, a perfectionist. Those are like the magic combinations, because why? A narcissist needs someone that they feel they can control. And it's not a matter of being weaker, because many people think this, Daphne. They think, oh, I got into this relationship because I was weak. They thought I was weak. They could control me. It's not about that. It's actually the opposite. They know that
Hmm.
you're strong. They know that you're a strong light, which is why they need to belittle you and degrade you and keep you
Control.
down and
Control.
control you. But
Yeah.
the point is, the empath, the codependent, the people pleaser, the peacemaker wants to help. I also want to speak to the family members with the "you're too sensitive and you took it the wrong way," and "oh, you're emotional." That was the story of my life growing up,
Hmm.
Daphne,
Yep.
because exactly, I would call something out like, "That's not okay," or "This isn't right." And then immediately, right, the response is, "Oh, it's on you." Like it's the blame and the onus is on you. "Deanna, you're so sensitive. Oh, Deanna, like you're too sensitive." It's always in a very negative fashion, right?
Absolutely. And
"Oh,
that's a
Deanna,
horrible
you
thing.
misunderstood. Deanna, you must have took that the wrong way. Deanna, you take everything so personal." Okay. So then what happens? You walk away, especially as a child, a young adult, thinking, I'm the problem. Fast forward in my journey, and it actually was when I first moved to Charlotte. I'm going to give a plug here. I took through my church a Living Your Strengths course. It's called Gallup's Strengths course, Strength Finder. You can go online and take this test. And this was so pivotal because, again, it was like this journey of like rediscovering myself. And I didn't realize it was all connected. But when I took this test, are you ready, Daphne? My number one God given strength is empathy. Empathy. That's sensitivity, right? So what I realized, and this was another light bulb moment in my life, what I had been put down for almost 40 years of my life, being
Yeah.
too sensitive, is actually my superpower. Being sensitive and empathetic is how I help people. It's how
Yes.
I serve in my work. But I thought it was a bad thing.
Isn't it funny how that happens? It just, like you said, it just keeps people out of the accountability loop, right?
Yes.
But you're
Yes.
at your core empathy. So seeing people at their core, calling people out, making
Yes.
people aware, right?
Yes.
That of
Exactly.
things that they're ignoring in their own body is your superpower. I think that makes
Exactly.
perfect
Perfect
sense.
sense. Well, now it does, right? Everything in hindsight, but as it was happening, you don't realize it. And the last thing I want to speak to, because you hit on so
Yeah.
many good points,
Yeah.
was about like anyone who is either questioning if they're in this kind of relationship, whether again, romantic or in your family, community, job. The workplace is another big one. I get a lot of people that come, and I also have had about two or three narcissistic bosses in my lifetime. Again, didn't recognize it, just knew like something is off here. Okay. So again, whatever the environment is, if you're questioning that, pay attention is my advice. Like you said, Daphne, if someone's chronically sarcastic, if someone's chronically saying, "Oh, I was just joking." I mean, that passive aggressiveness is a red flag. That sarcasm is a red flag. They're pretending it's a joke. I mean, I got that for so many years in several of the relationships I'd been. "Oh, I'm just joking. You can't even take a joke." Okay. No, actually, you're being like verbally and emotionally abusive, and I'm supposed to just take it. That's what you're telling me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's zero onus or accountability. So my advice is, if you're questioning it, if you're in one of these relationships now, or if we meet new people all the time, if you meet someone new and you're questioning, I'm not sure if this person is healthy, unhealthy, safe, unsafe, pay attention. Pay close attention is my best advice. Be observant. Because what happens is when we're living in the busy world that we live in, again, when you're not really paying close attention, things slip through the cracks.
Yes.
Or we also give, look, everybody has a bad day, but we also give like, we give, oh, well, it's okay. Like they were just having a bad day. They were upset because of X, Y, and Z. Okay. Maybe on a one off. But if you start, it's all narcissism. It's all about the patterns. If you start to see the same patterns of behavior over and over in different forums, you
You
go out
accept them.
and you accept them, well, then you're enabling that. And then the biggest thing I speak about how you, again, how you feel in your body, it's about emotional safety. So, and this, it could be a friend, it could be anyone in your family.
Yes.
If you don't feel safe around someone, your body responds. Okay.
Amen.
Your
Amen.
mind, amen. Your mind might not catch up yet. But when we all know this, you're around someone, you're like, I don't know. Just like, I don't want to really be around this person. Something
You're
doesn't
on
feel
guard.
right.
You're on guard. You're performing. You're
Yes.
shrinking away from
Yes.
everything. And
Exactly.
if you're going home every night to this,
There's a problem.
my God,
Exactly.
the long-term effect.
Shrinking, exactly again, what your podcast speaks to. You learn to literally stay in the background. It's like, okay, if I stay, I used to say, like, if I stay just behind the curtain, almost like the Wizard of Oz, if I stay behind the curtain, I'm safe, right?
Yes.
Don't cause any don't ruffle any feathers, don't cause any issues, okay? That's not okay. If you don't feel safe to speak your opinion, speak your mind, and you just said on guard, that's a huge one. That nailed it, Daphne. If you feel around anyone that you are on guard, that is a huge red flag. And because then you can dive into, why don't I feel safe around this person?
Yes.
Why don't I feel safe to speak exactly what's happening? If you feel that you're filtering your conversations to say,
Mhm.
oh, I don't want to say that because
Temper
that
their
might make
reaction.
that
Yeah.
person mad, right?
Yes.
They're going to react and get upset. If you're filtering your conversations, that's a red flag. Okay. So the opposite of that, I always try to stay in the positive, stay in the light. We all have had that experience where you meet a new friend or you meet a new romantic partner and you're like, just feel so wonderful around this person. I feel you might not think that it's, safety, but it is. And you're saying just, I want to be around this person. They fill me. Every time I leave this person, I feel
Yes.
so good about myself. I feel
Yes.
good. I can share whatever. I don't need to, I can be authentically me. Those
Yes.
are green flags. Those are green flags that you're in the right space. And so what I feel, Daphne, on the basis of all of this that we're talking about is recognizing, trusting your body, your intuition when you are in any relationship to say, how does this feel? And go
Yeah.
from there.
I love that. I love that. We could go deep and far into this, but I love that we were able to really give a basic understanding of what happens in your body when you're in the wrong relationships, when you're in the wrong partnerships. And I also love that you and I, our pivotal moment was actually producing or inventing new people in our life, right? Like, so by having children of our own,
Yes.
we were able to revisit that sense of purpose that we were asked to suppress, to shrink. And when
Yes.
we
Yes.
realized that now our shrinking was going to cost the longevity of the children we had, it lit another fire. So thank you for lighting that
Absolutely.
fire. I think one of the
Absolutely.
toughest parts of that can't take the blinders off moment for a lot of people is a lack of support. Now,
Yes.
that's something that
Yes.
you're offering, right?
Yes, that's a great point. Absolutely. And that's where I speak to now years into, again, we're always healing. So I say that I'm
Yes.
obviously more healed. I'm night and day where I was years ago, but continuing to heal. But I feel like it's helping the next one in line type of thing. So I help and support people. And I say it all the time. I am honored and humbled to be able to support anyone in their journey, whatever their journey is. I'm able to help them on the physical side with massage. Massage obviously has many, many benefits, even past the physical, right? For mental
Reconnecting
health
with
and
your body. Yeah.
reconnecting, reducing anxiety in the body. Um, I help I mean, one of my biggest tools is Reiki energy healing, which, speaks to the nervous system on such a deep level. It is so deeply calming to the nervous system, and it helps people release trauma and things from the body, and it helps people bring in clarity, awareness, and things that they want to feel. So Reiki is one of the strongest tools. I actually combine the two. My signature service is a combination of massage and Reiki energy healing, which is so powerful and so beautiful. I also offer intuitive coaching, which is more coaching to help someone connect to themselves, to their heart, their spirit, to help guide them in reaching their goals. I also offer a narcissistic abuse support group, the recovery group, and that is, well, I'll speak to the online support portion of that, where I help people in this space, whether they're questioning, am I in this kind of relationship? Once they realize, do I want to leave? How can I leave safely? How can I recover? How can I heal? In all of those steps. Again, it comes from a very authentic place in my own life that I genuinely want to help people in their journeys because I do believe on a very basic level, we're all here to help each other for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. Deanna, thanks for not fucking shrinking. Your light, your energy is so important. And I can't imagine that I didn't know you 7 years ago. And,
Yes.
it's one of those things where I'm
Yes.
so happy to meet you now. And I think people can really benefit from the support and the perspective you have. So if you are somebody who is struggling with this relationship, with this energy suck, with this physical ailment in your body, because it has a big reaching effect on your health, check out this episode. Check out Deanna's actual links, and even a support group is a great place to start, even if you're not sure, or if you need a backup or a reinforcement that what you're seeing you can't unsee anymore. And take care of yourself. Leave comments here, and thanks so much for being part of our show, Deanna.
Thank you. Can I say one last thing? One last
Absolutely.
thing. And I love what you said, and I want to end on that positive light as
Yeah.
well. To anyone in this kind of situation, in this environment, the beauty, I talk about this all the time, the beauty and the gift at the end is rediscovering yourself. It is a self-discovery journey in the healing process. You come back to you come back to finding your light, being able to spread and share your light. And it just speaks to everything that you just said, Daphne. So I want to just give that beacon of hope, that light of in the lighthouse that you can get to the other side. If I did it, anybody can, I believe. And when you get to that other side, again, you wouldn't have recognized me, Daphne, if you met me 7 years ago. I'm a different, I say a different person, but I've gone back to who I was before these relationships. So please, I always try to offer hope and inspiration that you're not alone and there is support to help you.
You are an inspiration. All right, friends, we will see you next week. Thanks for being part of our show.